Data interpretation. This is a very interesting chapter that must be seriously kept in consideration. When we talk about data interpretation, we don't have to think only to the MRT or to any other kind of special devices, because the operator that performs a visual inspection has to correctly interpret the data that is acquiring. He must know the difference between one single broken wire and, for example, a valley break. He must perfectly know the various discard criteria that he has to apply. So it's correct to talk about data interpretation anywhere. When we talk about MRT, of course, the level in terms of knowledge that the technician must have is higher, because he doesn't have only to take a look to the rope to search the various defects, but he has also to correctly interpret a diagram that arrives from the device itself. In order to give to the technicians the possibility to correctly operate with MRT, together with all the various information that are needed in order to perform a correct visual inspection, is very important to correctly explain the various aspects that there are around the MRT itself, and how to inspect a wire rope. We can suggest different kinds of trainings. There are mainly two different trainings. The first one, that is a first level training, and the second one, that is a deeper training that keeps in account more information. If we consider the first level training, it moves around four main points. The first one concerns the basic information that an inspector must have when he performs the test. So it includes, for example, the knowledge of the various regulations, for example, the ISO 4309, that is the main regulation that is accepted in this kind of environment, how a wire rope is made, which are the main differences between the various defects, standard broken wires due to fatigue, for example, distortions, and so on. All those things should be knew by the operator, not only when he performs the MRT test, but also when he performs the standard visual inspection. The second part of the training is connected strictly to the MRT tool. So here the technician will learn the basics of the magnetic rope test methodology in order to be able to correctly interpret the various data that arise from the device itself, which is the difference between the diagram corresponding to a simple broken wire and the diagram corresponding, for example, to wearing or corrosions, or how the diagram will appear when there is a distortion or something else. This kind of information are, from our point of view, very important to give him the possibility to correctly interpret the data and to find on the wire rope the same kind of defects that he finds on the diagram itself. The third part of this training is related to the software. The software is one of the main important part of the tool, because this is the human interface, the interface between the operator and the full device. So it's through the software that the operator can see the various signals. So it's important that he can correctly operate on the software itself. He must learn how to zoom, how to start an acquisition, how to stop, how to pause an acquisition. All those things are, from our point of view, extremely important, because in this way he can operate in the correct way. The last part of this first level training is the practice. The practice is a very important phase because here the technician can try to do it by himself. So this phase can be made or in a laboratory or directly on the field. Maybe at the beginning it should be better to avoid very complicated plans. During the practice, the technician can try to reproduce some defects on ropes placed in the laboratory and try to perform the various inspection by using the tool. It's extremely important from our point of view that this is considered as a training session. So the instructor, so EMC in this case, should be available to support the technician in order to clarify problems or doubts. There is also a second level course. This is a deeper course in which all the aspects of the basic one are considered, are treated, but this is made under a European regulation, so the ISO 9712. The ISO 9712 is a regulation that lives in the world of the NDT, so the non-destructive test. With this course, the technician can learn not only the practical phase and some general aspects around, you can say, the MRT and the visual control of wire ropes, but he will learn also more detailed things around how an MRT tool is built, from where physically the signals comes out, in order to have a more touch with the technology itself. At the end of this course, that I repeat lives under an European regulation, there is an exam done in collaboration with a third-party company, a third-party organism. This test is articulated on two different parts. A theoretical part, in which there are some questions, and a practical part on some certified rope. If this exam will be a success, the inspector can reach the second level under the ISO 9712. It's really important, this kind of certification, because through it the inspector is considered a real expert in this kind of tests. In some fields, for example in the cableways field, this certification is mandatory. So in order to perform this kind of tests, you must have a certification under the ISO 9712. For the other sectors, for example the heavy lifting sector, this is not strictly mandatory, but the ISO 4309, so the regulation that explains you how to perform the tests on wire rope, says that people must be expert in this kind of methodology. And if you have this certification, you are considered as an expert. As conclusion, I can say that training is a fundamental part of all the process. And remember that the best technician with the worst device is always better than the worst technician with the best device.